Welcome to this session. This is the second session in this series on strings. In the last session, I introduced you to the basics of strings in Python. So we did a couple of things like concatenation, slicing. Okay, those are basic but also very common operations you do with strings. So today we are diving a bit deeper really into strings, and we're looking at manipulating and checking strings. Okay, and if you want to access the last session, you just follow this link, and we will look at a couple of methods, but not everything. Okay, but these methods are basically the most common and most relevant that you would need for most programming applications. But if you're the curious type and want to access the other methods, then you could just follow this link here. Okay, at the end of this session, I will share video from this class on my YouTube channel, and you should be able to follow this, and the code also be deposited in my GitHub repository, which you can access by just following this this link. Okay, so today we're looking at string methods. Okay, various methods. Okay, a method is just a function basically that you use to manipulate a string in this case. Okay, so the first method we're looking at is strip. Okay, so what does strip do? Okay, strip just removes characters from the end of a string. Okay, so it could be any character. It could be a white space, it could be a certain character. Okay, so now let's say let's look at this string called hindolo. Okay, and say we want to strip h and o from this string. Okay, so the syntax is very simple. It's as the name implies, is strip, and char here is just the character you want to remove. Okay, so let's define the string here, string. Okay, and let's print this string here. So this syntax is just printing this string that you have defined. Okay, and let's strip h. Okay, first let's say we want to strip o, just o from h. Okay, I mean from this name hindolo. Okay, so the syntax to use is just string, which represents the string we have we want to strip. Okay, h. Okay, and this is just the syntax, and this is the character we want to strip. Okay, so if you run this, you can definitely see what's happening. So hindolo here is the original string, and hindol here is just the result after stripping 0. So you see, and you can see that it's only stripping the last element, what's on the end, not the zeros here. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so now let's say we instead of 0, we want to strip h and o from the from the beginning and the ending. Okay, so in this case, all we have to do is add h. Okay, because in this case we want to strip h and o. So again, run, and you see that there's no h, there is no o here as well. Okay, so now that is that. So let's say instead of a certain character, we just want to strip leading and trailing white space. Okay, so this is what we call white space. This is white space. Okay, we don't want this white space. Okay, so let's say, okay, let me just show you something here. Okay, so if we run this, you see that, okay, well, you can't actually see the white space here because you know, I'm using a white background. Okay, but the basic stuff here is that, you know, there's a white space here, as you can see, and there is a white space here as well. Okay, and if you want to get rid of this white space, all you have to do is, again, string. This is representing this original string, and strip is the method, or is the function, and this is what we want to remove. Okay, because we want to only remove white space, we just, you know, put white space like this. Now if you run this, you can see here clearly that the first hindolo, you can see that there's a leading white space here. Okay, and the second hindolo, which has been stripped of the white space, has no white space. Okay, so now what's the importance of this method in programming, basically? Okay, so you know, the first relevance or the first application of this is memory conservation. Okay, you know, let's say, you know, for a single string here, it's understandable, it's fine, but let's say you had like a couple of strings, or you know, or a string that is made up of thousands of characters. Okay, so you know, the one with the white space basically has more characters, and which means, you know, it occupies more space. Okay, in terms of memory. Okay, and if you strip that string of those white space, well, space, no, it's not spaces, yeah, white space, then you have, you know, you have conserved memory. Now let's see you know, how that works in practice. Okay, so you don't need to worry about this import statement, about this, you know, I'm just importing a function, a method, or, well, here is a function that I can use to measure or determine the size of a variable in terms of memory bytes. Okay, so S1 here is just the size of hindolo with a couple of white spaces, and S2 is the size of hindolo with the white spaces removed, because this syntax is what we use to remove the white space. Okay, so now let's run this and see the difference in memory requirements. So if we run this, you can see that original string, which is hindolo with spaces, has, I mean, is 59 bytes. Okay, in terms of memory. Okay, and the trimmed version is 56. So that's just one very good application here. Okay, and I also want to draw your attention to something that, you know, to this expression here. You know, for those who were in the previous session, okay, we did talk about how to print, you know, how to print variables. Okay, where you use this, for example, to take the place of a variable. Okay, and use a format method to specify the variable. Okay, and we did also talk about how to print on two different lines. Okay, but here you can see that I have two different print statements. Okay, but they are being printed on the same line, basically. Okay, and you can see that we have used this syntax here, and so this syntax is what you use to print on the same line. So if you have several print statements that you want to be printed on the same line, then you just say end is equal to, you know, dash, like empty white space. Okay, so let's say if we were to remove this and run, you see that this is printed on the next line. Okay, so that's just to draw your attention. In fact, I think I need to open this file in playground mode, basically, so that the changes I make here are not saved. Okay, So let's see again. So now let's go to the second method. Okay, now the second method here is a collection of methods basically. Okay, it's a collection of about 5 different methods that we can use to manipulate strings. Okay, so the first method is SwapCase, and what SwapCase does is that, so let's say you have a string that has uppercase and lowercase. Okay, uppercase is just what we used to call capital letters. Okay, so SwapCase just changes the capital letters to small letters and the small letters to capital letters. You know, as the name implies, swap. Okay, SwapCase. Okay, lower converts uppercase to lowercase, as the name implies. Upper converts lowercase to uppercase. Okay, and it's lower here. You know, whenever you see a syntax or a method, you know, whenever a method starts with is, it means it's a logical method. Okay, meaning it's trying to find out, to check if something is true. So is lower means it basically checks if the string is a lowercase string, meaning all the characters in that string are lowercase characters. Is upper, you know, checks if all the strings, I mean if all the characters are uppercase characters basically. Okay, so now let's look at an example. Okay, so let's take this example. We own Pi, now we own Python Club. So this is the string, this is our original string. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, let's say we basically want to see, you know, the outputs of all of these functions, or the outcomes of all of these functions when applied, or all of those methods when applied to this string. Okay, so this is the original string, and this statement just prints the original string. Again, if this is new to you, I refer you to the previous tutorial, and that tutorial is on YouTube, and it's titled strings 1. Okay, so now I think I can actually show you. So here it's titled getting started with strings. So if you go to my YouTube channel and click on the string, I mean on this video, you should be able to, you know, to get started on strings. Okay, so now let's see here. Okay, let's say our first task is to swap the lowercase and uppercase characters, meaning we want to change, you know, lowercase to uppercase and uppercase to lowercase. So again, it's very simple. Okay, so in fact, I think before we get to the swapping, let's change, you know, let's check. Okay, let's check what's happening here. Okay, say if this string here is lowercase character string. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, you know, I'll just run this entire cell. Okay, so that I can make reference to the output of each of those commands. Okay, so when you click on this, then it will just run the entire cell for you. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, so this first print statement is just printing, you know, this. So you can see clearly here, original string, we own Pi, now we own Python Club, which is just this, nothing done to it. So now let's check basically if everything here is a lowercase character. So the syntax you use, as you saw here, is lower. Okay, and now this is just printing that for us. So let's see. As you can see, the answer here is false, because you know there are uppercase characters here, there are as well lowercase characters. So then the next one, let's see if everything here is uppercase. Again, just use the syntax, and if you print this, we go to the results here again is false, because as you can see there are lowercase characters here. Okay, so now let's go to the next task. Okay, so let's say we want to swap the uppercase and lowercase characters. Again, what do we use? We just use the SwapCase method, and if we print this with this command, we can also see here now, you see, as you can see here, the original string, you can see W is capital here, is small, E is capital here, is capital. So that's basically what's happening. It's just inverting them. So you see, and now let's say we want to convert this string to uppercase. Again, what do? We take the original string, which is string. Okay, well, we want to convert it to lowercase, and just use this method lower. You see, so lower, we just change everything to lowercase. Again, if we take a look here, we can see that we don't buy now, everything is lowercase. Okay, and now if you were to check again the status of this string, so let's say in the first instance we want to check if this is a lower, you can see false. Okay, no, okay, because it's getting it from the previous one. So string is lower. Now you can see here true. Okay, lowercase status of lowercase converted string is true, because we have converted everything to lowercase. Now if we were to check uppercase, as expected, it's false, because that string clearly is lowercase, and so on and so forth. So we can do the same thing to uppercase, just using the right syntax. Okay, and again, what's the application of this is string comparison. So let's say you have a couple of strings that you want to compare, then you can use this syntax basically, or these set of methods to do that. You can also use password validation. So let's say your password, or you are creating a password, or let's say you are asking a user to create a password, but you want all the passwords to be uppercase, right? So you can just use the syntax easily to check, okay, if it's not uppercase, then you can just reject the password. So now the third method I want us to look at is in fact this is this is wrong, replace. Okay, I spelled that wrong. So replace. Okay, again, as the name implies, replace, you just use replace to replace a substring or a character or a set of characters. Okay, and the syntax here is replace old, new, and count. Okay, so the old here means the character that you want to replace. Okay, new, the character or the substring you want to replace the old substring with. Then the count is the number of occurrences, because sometimes certain characters occur multiple times, right? So let's say I want to write Sierra Leone, for example. Sierra, there are 2 R's there, right? So if you only want to replace the first R, then the count here should be 1, for example. But this is an optional input, so you don't have to always specify it. So if you don't specify, then it will replace every occurrence of that character. Okay, again, now let's use Leon stars as an example. So let's say we want to edit Leon stars to Leon starlets. Okay, so the original string is Leon stars. Again, you just invoke string replace here. Okay, so here we can see Leon stars, Leon starlets. So the only thing we want to replace here is stars with starlets. So you put here stars, this is the old string, and you put here starlets. So you see, so if you print it wrong, you print the new string, so you can see. So instead of Lone Stars, it's now Lone Stars. So you see, so let's see what happens if you were to swap. If you were to swap the positions. Okay, good. Now see what happens. So you see, Lone Stars, nothing changes because, you know, as I said earlier, the first position is the string you want to replace. So what Python really does is that it looks at this old string and searches for this substring. Okay, so when it finds it, it replaces it with this. If it doesn't find it, then it doesn't do anything. Okay, so there is no starlet in Lone Stars, so that's why nothing happens. Okay, now let's assume, okay, again, if you take a look at Lone Stars and Lone Starlets, okay, another way to replace, to change, to edit this to Lone Starlets is just changing S to lets, basically. So we could do the same thing here. So let's say S here is being replaced with lets, and if we run, exactly the same. So as I said earlier, what this is just doing is it's just searching here and looking at, okay, where is small s, and it finds small s here, and it says, okay, what should I replace small s with? I should replace it with lets, and it does it. Okay, that's it. Again, one thing you should note here is that replace is case sensitive, as you know, as we definitely saw here, you see, because there's capital S, but no, it's looking for small s because we specified, you know, small s. Now let's say we put capital S, okay, and see what happens. So you see, now it's Lone Lets Stars, okay, because it's, you know, it's replacing the capital S here with lets. Okay, now, okay, so let's say we want to replace all the occurrences of she, notice the capital SHE, in the sentence, she said she sells seashells on the seashore, okay, with he. So which means wherever she occurs in this sentence, you know, we replace, or we want Python to replace that with he, capital HE. Okay, so this is the original string here, and this is the syntax for the new string. So string replace, again, she is what we want to replace with he. Okay, and it's here. So now if we print new string, so you see, now you can see that he said, because the she here has been replaced with he. She sells it's actually funny. So he said she sells seashells on the seashore. Okay, and you can notice that she here was not replaced at all. Okay, even though at first sight would expect the second she to be replaced, but it wasn't, because, you know, it's case sensitive. We told Python that capital capital S, small h e. Okay, so it was not replaced. Okay, so now let's say in this case we want to replace okay, sorry, I saw some okay, I wrote that. Okay, replace the occurrence of she in the sentence. So now we only want, you see, small s, not capital. Again, now you can see she, the capital S is still there. So she said he sells seashells. So you see, now hells, because the she, you see, the SHE in shells has been replaced with HE. Okay, and again, assuming we were editing this in real life, we wouldn't want this, because we still want shells to be shells. Okay, so you see, note how shells has changed to hells. Okay, so now what if we wanted to do this the right way. Okay, we really wanted to replace every occurrence of the female pronoun she to he, regardless of whether it's capital or it's small. We don't care. We just want, if it's capital SHE, it's capital HE. If it's capital if it's small SHE, it's small SHE. Okay, now we can't do this in one step. Okay, this is a proper programming problem. Okay, so now let's see, what do we do first? Okay, so the first thing we do is we replace this she with he. Okay, because in that case then every other thing remains the same. Okay, so which is what we have here. So you replace she with she here, so we have a new string. Okay, then what do we do next? So we take this new string. Okay, we take this new string, okay, and replace she with he. But if we just replace everything, okay, then this she here will change to he. So, and this will read as hell, and we don't want that. Okay, and we can see that there are multiple occurrences of she. Okay, but we only want the first occurrence of she replaced. So in that case, we specify the count, because we don't want Python going on to change everything for us. We just want it to change the first occurrence. So again we put this, but specify that one. Okay, now if we print everything, you see that it reads well. Okay, he said he sells seashells on the seashore. Simple. Okay, that's a start. So now let's go to method 4. Okay, and the fourth method here is sometimes you want to look for a character or a substring, say in a sentence or in a string. Okay, and so what this syntax does is that this syntax is just in. Okay, so you say, so let's say we want to look for substring, so you just a substring in string. Okay, and what you get is a boolean. Okay, meaning you get true or false. So if the substring you're looking for is in the string, you get true. If it's not there, you get false, basically. Okay, and there is a complementary expression for this, and it's just not. So if you want to find out, if you want to check if it's not there, so instead of saying in, just say not in. It's that simple, really. So again, now let's take this. Let's take the string Sierra Leone. Okay, and so let's say we want to check again if Sierra is in Leone. And I know some of you may be wondering, oh come on, what's the relevance of this? Again, assuming you're writing a really big program and you expect the user to pass a certain string, okay, you can use this to basically validate their input. So let's say we want something that ends, that starts with Sierra or that has Sierra. So it could be Sierra Leone, it could be Sierra Juice, it could be Sierra Leone, okay, but come what may, you just want Sierra in that. So you could use this expression basically to validate their inputs. Okay, so now again, if we want to know if Sierra is in string, you just say Sierra in string. Okay, if you want to know whether it's not there, just say Sierra not in string. So if we were to run this again, you see that the first one gives us true, because yes, Sierra is, or someone wants to join. Okay, because Sierra indeed is in Sierra Leone. Okay, but the second one gives us false. Again, here the application here is, as I said earlier, is string validation. Okay, so you could let me see. Now let's say we want to say stars. Okay. Now you can see that the second status is basically saying true, because your hypothesis here, or your premise in this case, is that stars is not in string. That's your hypothesis. Okay. And it's true because indeed you're right, stars is not in Sierra Leone. Okay. But if we were to replace it to Sierra now, you have false, because your hypothesis is wrong. Okay, so method 5 is count. Okay, now this is when you want to count the number of occurrences, okay, or sorry, the number of occurrence of a substring, okay, in a string. So again here, this has three inputs basically. So you have substring, which means this is a substring you're trying to count. Okay, start and end. Start means, this is just a position, the start position in the string. Okay, so if you say 1, so which means you're starting your counting, or you're checking from index 1 of the parent string. End is just the end index again. So let's look at this string here. The string here we're looking at is run, Larry, run and catch the ball. Okay, and we want to count the occurrences of run. Okay, how many times run occurs in that sentence. Okay, and again, very simple, just a string count. And what are we looking for? Run. So run, and if we print this, you can see saying 2. So okay, so run is counted twice, or run is appearing twice. Again, this is case sensitive, okay, because there are actually 3 runs, but this first run is capital. Okay, so it's only counting this because you're asking for this. If you had said capital R, then you see only 1. Okay, basically. Okay, so if let's say we were counting the number of R's there, again, now see 3, it's counting all the R's, but again, it's excluding this. Okay, so now again, another programming problem. So let's say, okay, assuming we actually want to count not only run, okay, whether it's capital run, a run that starts with a capital R, or a run that starts with a capital, with a small r, we want, we take them to be the same. Okay, so again here, this is a string, but here, it's very simple. Okay, the simplest way here is that we convert everything to lowercase, or it could be uppercase. It's up to you. Okay, so let's say here we want to convert everything to lowercase. So as you can see, string lower, and then we just count how many times run occurs in this, and you can see now 3 times. Okay, someone, okay, fine. So you see, so easy, 3 times. Okay, again, the application is string validation. Let me drink some water. Then the 6th method here is space. And I said earlier, whenever a method starts with is, it's actually trying to ask a question. Okay, and the result here is a boolean. It's either true or false. Okay, so again, what space does is that space is just saying, is this string made of white space, only white space? Okay, so if the answer is yes, then it's true. If the answer is no, it's false. Okay, so here we're just printing two strings. The first string is thanks without any white space, and the second string is just all white space. Again, if we run this, you can see that the first one is false, because it's not made of white space. Okay, and the second one is true because indeed, yes, it's made of white space. Again, so this tells you that these methods that start with is are just hypotheses, okay? Meaning it's saying is space, yes, meaning the string is all space. Okay, good. So method 7 is alpha, okay? Again, it's very simple. Is alpha is just saying that every character in this string is an alphabet, okay? So if it's true, I mean, if every character in that string is an alphabet, it returns true. If not, it returns false. Again, here you can see the first one is true because everything is an alphabet. The second one is false because, yes, 5 is not an alphabet, okay? Method 8 is numeric. I'm not going to explain this. I think this is self-explanatory, okay? Again, you can see that the first one returns true because everything here is a number, and the second one, no, okay? So let's insert a space there and see what happens. Now it's false because there is white space here. Again, you can use this for string validation. Now method 9, which is the last set of methods really before we go to our examples. Again, is, you know, is alnum, okay? And is alnum is just saying, is it alphanumeric? Meaning, is it, you know, does it contain only alphabets and numbers? You know, basically that's what it is saying, okay? And you can see, so if the answer is yes, then it returns true. If the answer is no, it returns false, okay? So we, you know, I have put here 4 different strings. First string has numbers and letters, the second is just numbers, the third is just alphabets, and the third has a special character in there. So now let's run this and see what happens. So you can see that true, 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 false, because all of these have either alphabets only, or, you know, or numbers only, or a mixture of alphabets and numbers. But this one has a special character. That's why it's saying false, okay? Again, you can use this for string validation and password validation. I'm sure most of you have come across you know, instances when, you know, you've been told that your password should have both numbers and letters and stuff. You know, this is the sort of thing that they use to tell you that no, your password is not valid, you know. Okay, so now I wanted us to look at 2 examples, but we'll only look at 1 because, you know, most of the examples will require you to have you know, to have learned a bit about like logic, you know, if else, or a bit about loops, for loops, while loops, you know, which is what we'll be doing next week. So we'll only look at 1 example here in this case, okay? So now let's look at 1 problem that, you know, that requires the application of some of the things we've learned earlier, okay? So now let's say we want to write a program, okay, that's, you know, that replaces all, I mean, you know, all occurrences of the first character with the $, except the first character itself, okay? So you have a sample here. So what this means is that, so let's say we have church, okay? So church is our input, okay? So what this is asking us is that we want to replace, okay, so the first character is C, okay? So we want to replace all other occurrences of C with the $, but we leave the first character as it is. So as you can see here, the first C, you know, remains intact, but we replace the other C with the sign, okay? Now this is a difficult problem, okay? Now, assuming we knew exactly that it was church, then that would be very simple, okay? Because assuming, you know, because if we knew exactly that this was church, we could just say print, okay, church, let's say church that replace C, and we replace that with the $sign. Okay, and if we run this, it will give us this. Okay, this will be very simple. Okay, but let's us, this is a program. Okay, we don't know what the input will be. It can be anything. It can be Sierra Leone, it can be Chelsea, it can be what have you. Okay, and we don't know in advance, so which means we cannot use this simplistic option. So that's out of the picture. Okay, so what do we do? Okay, so now this is what I would do. Okay, there may be other ways to do this, but this is how I would go about it. Okay, so this is our input string, which we can change, obviously. Now let's say I want to change this one to Arsenal. Yes, that team. Always losing. So okay, so now you see, okay, so the first option would be to extract the first character, this one. Okay, because what the question is saying is that we want to replace all other instances, but we want to keep that first character intact, so we don't want to play with it, so you keep it. Okay, so this is what you do. Okay, so you just slice the variable here, this input first char. Okay, so you just remove the first character and save it as first char. Okay, now we have done that. Okay, so what do we do next? Okay, so we convert the input string to lowercase, everything here. Okay, everything to lowercase, and the reason why we are converting this to lowercase, it's just because we know that mostly most words start with capital and end in well, I mean, like a proper word. Okay, either is all small letters, or starts with a capital and the rest are small letters. Okay, that's just the basic thing. Okay, so you basically just change everything to lowercase. So you take this input string, invoke lower, and it's converted here. Now what do we do next? So you have converted this to lowercase, so you take this new string here and replace all occurrences of the first character with the $sign. Okay, but you can see that here that we need to convert this first character here to lower first. Okay, because why? Because this new string here is all lowercase. Okay, so assuming the first string here is uppercase, then there'll be an issue there. Okay, because there'll be a mismatch. Okay, Python won't find any instance of that string again, because we have converted everything to lowercase. So that's why we put lower here. Okay, and replace with a $sign. Okay, so what do we do now? Okay, so then the final step is we try to concatenate the two strings together. Okay, because we have saved the first string separately. Okay, and we have replaced every occurrence of that first string in the original string. Okay, but how do you concatenate them? Okay, you don't have to concatenate the first string and the entire original string, because that is basically giving you a new string with more characters. Okay, so what you do is you concatenate this, okay, which is the first string. Okay, but from this replaced string, meaning a string with every character, every occurrence of the first character replaced. Okay, we need only from the second to the last, because the first character is already replaced with this. Okay, so this becomes final string is equal to first char plus the replace string from the second to the last. Okay, now if we run this, you can see this becomes as now, basically. Okay, and you can use any other letter. Okay, and it works perfectly. You see, any other, so you see Liverpool, so and that works. Now let's say if we start Liverpool with a small letter and see what happens. So you see, so it changes only the last one. So this is it. Okay, and this basically is the end of today's